All right. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Nice to see you, very scary, big crowd. I'm Corten Singer, as you guys heard, one of the co-founders at Augmental, which is based right here in San Francisco. And at Augmental, one of the things we're super passionate about is rethinking the ways in which we as humans interact with our computers and devices that have become such a large part of our lives. And so today I'm going to talk about our first step towards this in redesigning the computer mouse. Now, since its invention in the 60s, the design of the mouse hasn't really changed much, yet the hand-based sort of input paradigm has come to dominate how we control our machines. And we really kind of wanted to challenge this paradigm and embrace the idea of what could be something a little bit more of a human-computer interaction, as I was getting to. And with the invention of the mouse, at the initial sort of inflection point of human-computer interaction invention, we saw really amazing stuff come out that allowed us to connect to our computers like never before. The mouse, the keyboard, the touch screen, which is awesome. But if anything, a little bit old. It's decades ago, and sadly, since this inflection point, our input devices have still largely remained anchored to that hand-based paradigm, the keyboard, the mouse, the touchscreen, without much exploration beyond. And even with the advent of the wearable VR, AR displays, we still see hand controllers or in-air hand gestures, which, simply put, is just not an inclusive paradigm. And our bodies are all unique with diverse abilities, yet really the digital access to the digital world, rather, has been limited to these traditional hand-based inputs. And the question comes up of, what happens when the hands aren't available? Why should our interaction be confined just to our fingers and hands on screens and keyboards? And, before I get too far ahead of myself, there still are a couple of, awesome hands-free options that are out there worth noting, like eye trackers, voice control, chin or lip-based joysticks, and even brain implant systems. But they all have kind of their big issues. For example, eye trackers cause the eyes to fatigue pretty quickly, and they don't work well under the sun, where I think we all belong. Voice control is great, but it fails in terms of privacy and in terms of controlling things like a mouse, for example. And the chin and lip-based joysticks, they're just clunky. They create a physical barrier between your face and the rest of the world. And while the brain implant solutions are pretty cool, they're just too far out in the future. And people need solutions yesterday, essentially. And bonus points if you don't have to have brain surgery. And now, this general field of assistive technology and accessibility, for me, came much more into focus when I was at Cal. I had reunited with my cousin Nico, pictured here, whom I met when I was about 10. As kids, we were playing soccer, surfing, but he had an accident in high school, unfortunately, that left him paralyzed and bound to a chair. So our reunion really kind of showed me what it means to live with disability and how limited the options are for assistive technology, particularly if you need something hands-free. And so while at school, I kind of started thinking, could my studies someday help? And when I met my co-founder, Tomas Vega, here, that curiosity was just amplified 100-fold. We both studied computer science and cognitive science, so we loved that sort of intersection of human-computer interaction, and we did a lot of research in the same labs, just busting out a bunch of rapid prototypes on alternative ways to interact with computers, essentially. And we, as a result of that, explored EEG brain sensing on Tomas's scalp there. We had EOG eye tracking, muscle detection. We learned the pros and cons of all these options out there. And after going to grad school individually, we kind of came back together, reconvened, and considered an unexplored yet really exciting alternative in the tongue. And we see the tongue really as this hidden superpower of ours as humans. And it's essentially because the tongue is innately dexterous, very capable and precise. And compared to other parts of our body, there's a super large chunk of neurons in the brain dedicated to the control and sensing of the tongue. We call it the 11th finger for that reason. And coupled with, the advances in rapid prototyping and flexible electronics, for example, we felt we could actually start to explore this new realm of interaction, which is when we sort of started to embark on the prototyping. And so here we see Tomas with the first tongue sensing prototype while he was at the MIT Media Lab. This is just a simple on or off detector, but it kind of gave us some hope to expand on that. And here we see a video actually sending some data from our first grid of tongue sensing. We had 3x3 values, so you could get some sort of direction of the tongue and where the user was putting it. And this is kind of when we felt, hey, we might have something here. Let's try to improve the form factor. How can this be worn hands-free? And we started looking, which makes sense, towards the dental retainer form factor. And this was an interesting exploration for us who have never really undertaken this challenge. And we started with the old school dental approach with the dental powders and the goops, and making models essentially from this where we could thermoform some plastic around, as you see on the right side here. But this was really before the digital dentistry came into view for us, which is the way. I'm talking 3D scanning, 3D printing, no more gross goops going down your throat causing a gag, or more importantly, no more causing our friends to barf literally all over our hands in the office. True story, that stuff just sucks. And so we went digital, and as you can see sort of in the video, we can now painlessly capture our customer scans within just a couple minutes, and it's no user error. And we also have a digital design workflow that allowed us to have more control on the retainers that we were making. You can see the little seats, if you will, where our electronics will sit. And on the bottom right, we have a picture of the retainer with the front teeth removed, as we didn't really need that. So we just had a little bit more control, although it was hard at first. As designers, we're all probably familiar with squares and circles, but getting some complex, biological geometries was just trippy. I didn't really even know where to begin, and it took about 25 hours to make my first retainer, which is now down to like 5 minutes with our process. So awesome growth there. And in parallel with the mechanical developments, we're also improving our electronic components. We can see the first prototype on the left here is just a basic rigid prototype board, and once that worked, we went to the full flex PCB option, which allowed us to bend and fit inside of people's mouths, essentially. And so you can see kind of the combination of those two steps, the mechanical and the electronic part put together. You can see there's some side capsules on this device for the Bluetooth, the battery, other sort of sensors to support that main tongue trackpad, that black shape that you see in the middle. And kind of worth noting here at this stage, one of the biggest design challenges we had was making our boards not just flexible, but able to stretch to fit for other different mouth sizes. And so you can see those squiggly little connecting cables there as our first attempt to make this flexible board actually stretchable. And from there, we iterated a bit. We added a frame, first and foremost, onto our PCB so that when we were assembling the components by hand, it wasn't just wiggling around the whole time, which was really painful. And from there, on the right side, you can see we also started iterating on the squiggly design, if you will, for lack of a better term. Those squiggles are a little taller in amplitude compared to the left, which actually helped reduce buckling when it was stretching. And we even explored detachable connectors, which didn't really work for us, to be honest, but it made us separate our circuit board from a tongue sensing component to the rest of the brains, the Bluetooth, the microcontroller, et cetera. And so with that tongue iteration, it's worth showing you our development board that we use throughout the process. And so you can see the kind of circuit board is on this tray with a clear, what we call it, a licker pad, so that you can lick the sensor and test the tongue detection without making a retainer every single time. And yeah, this is kind of what our current circuit board looks like today. You can see they couple and solder together at that sort of like snakehead looking tip there. And you can see the squigglies, again, have improved, adding a double squiggle action. So it's not just one squiggle, but you got a squiggle inside. This, of course, was for optimal stretchability that we found. And so yeah, we can kind of see it all together in the first functional prototype video here, where it's wired, but you can see that trackpad has become a lot more granular and more precise, kind of similar to the trackpad that we're used to on our laptops. And despite the harsh realities of assistive technology and the lack of funding that essentially kept us in a basement like this for years doing our work, I'm super proud to say we have moved into an official lab space in the city here, and our wonderful team has finally brought to life. Yeah, thank you. It's no small feat staying alive in this business, but yeah, we're there, and I just can't thank our wonderful team enough for also bringing to life our first product, which we're calling the MouthPad. And so this is what it looks like today. It's fully transparent, using there we go. Thank you. It's fully transparent. It's using compatible or biocompatible resins that you can find in your dentist's. It's tailored and custom fit to each user's mouth so that it can be comfortable with those flexible electronics, and it's fully encapsulated, so no saliva or water is going to come in and damage any of that circuitry. At this point, it's really that trackpad that we've been envisioning, but it just happens to live in your mouth and operate fully wirelessly. And so I can show you guys a couple of demo videos. This is Corbin from our team putting his device on, talking to Siri, and then with it you can kind of navigate your screen, swipe pages. He's going to click on an app and go so far as to type out a word, letter by letter. He can still speak to Siri with his device in, but this is to show you the accuracy that you can already get with the tongue. And we also support another input for cursor control, which is head tracking. So when you put the device in and you move your head sort of side to side, so too will the cursor on the screen, as you see here. And no, thank you again. You guys are very kind, thank you. But yeah, in summary, we wanted this MouthPad to be designed to be expressive. It supports the tongue input, head input, sip and puff, and more. It's invisible, designed in the mouth for more private interaction. And it's custom fit, again, maximizing comfort so that it's not just some clunky, thick device, so you can still speak. And last but not least, it's cross-platform compatible, so computer, tablet, smartphone, any operating system should just accept this mouse. And sorry, I went a little bit ahead of myself, but the point I wanted to leave off here is now that it works, it just leaves us in this awesome place where we can steadily just improve the product. We want to make it pun intended, a no-brainer, which to that end, we've actually been really trying to get our performance of our MouthPad to match the state-of-the-art of the brain chip solutions out there, like Neuralink's option. And so just a couple of weeks ago, our top customer actually essentially matched the performance score that Neuralink has released, which is amazing for us, especially given we have incredibly so much less funding, and we don't require brain surgery or this extensive training and calibration for our users. And so here you can kind of see an idea of what it looks like to use the MouthPad. This is the actual performance tracking tool we built. And this is the customer on the upper right who actually has the top score. But you can see it really kind of is similar to what we know with the hand and the mouse. It's pretty quick, but even still, it's not our top score. Which, top scores are fun and all, but I think it's just as important to not just, be able to use this device easily, but to be able to learn it easily. And so this is actually a video of our onboarding interface with one of our customers, Joseph. You can see the timer there. It's only been about 20 minutes, and he's up and running, clicking and moving the mouse, getting those basics. So it's pretty straightforward to pick up. And it's been really just awesome working with these customers like this on a personal level. They've been a large part of our design process, and we don't ever want to sort of lose sight of that, which has been great. And so another thing that comes from our customers is, beyond just using a MouthPad to control your computer, there's been a lot of requests to control wheelchairs, for example. So we, started developing, thank you. Thank you. We have Corbin again, our wonderful engineer, doing this demo here. But yeah, it just shows an early exploration into what we can do with wheelchair drives systems, essentially. And we hope to unlock this for sale eventually in the future. And beyond just the wheelchair as well, we also had to connect it to games. We want to support more and more game consoles, of course, but this is a little tongue-based Super Smash Bros., which, it's not all about work. It's about fun, too, of course. And on top of what I can show you, the explorations we're doing today, the last little tease I'll give is something that's coming out later this year in what we call silent speech. Just like we reinvented the mouse with what I've shown you today, we want to reinvent the keyboard by providing direct speech-to-text translation from our device. And that's not too new, but what's new in our approach lies with where we actually are positioned. And we can have access to these new signals that allow us to decipher speech in new ways. So we can do low volume, like whisper-based speech, and eventually silent speech. So you can unlock what feels like electronic lip reading, if you will, for more convenient and private interaction. No more socially awkward talking to your devices in public, for example. But I could go on about that, but enough about the future. There's really some amazing stuff already happening today with some of our users that I'd love to kind of tell you guys about. And first and foremost, we have here Esther. She's one of our real strong MouthPad supporters who has found a whole new world to explore, really, with the digital access that her MouthPad has enabled. And she has been unable to enjoy the simple pleasures of taking pictures on her tablet, for example, until now. And she actually took this photo with her tongue. So that's an example that it's actually working for her. Yeah. Thank you. And here is Keely. Also, she's a superstar. She's a college student when she crossed paths with us at Augmental. So she had really achieved a ton already, but the MouthPad still granted some huge unlocks for her. For example, she could study in the library at school without disrupting people and feeling that she was a nuisance. She could raise her hand independently on Zoom when she was in class, and at night she had a little bit more normalcy to her routine. She could, for the first time in bed, have access to her device. In bed you're not upright, there's no easily mountable sort of connectors, and so it's often a time where you're isolated, but she could do some late night studying, gaming, or better or for worse, doing the doom scroll, as we all know, at the end of the night. But it should be an option, whether it's good or bad. And here we have Josh. He's using his MouthPad to connect to a rolling blue sort of robot toy to race his toddler. I'll play this real quick. Incredibly adorable, of course, but this is what the MouthPad can do. A little improvement to your digital access can mean the whole world to somebody instead of just a slight improvement. So it's something we really love to see. And last but certainly not least, here we have Ryan Hudson-Peralta. He's seen with Apple CEO Tim Cook. He's one of our latest customers and a verified Augmental homie, and I'd love to sort of bring him out now, and he can kind of share his bit for himself.
Woo. Hey, everyone. Thanks, Corten. Hey. Thank you. That's a pretty good-looking guy up there. Not you, Corten. I'm talking about myself. My name is Ryan Hudson-Peralta. I'm the creative director of product at Rocket. Founder, hey! Love my Rocket peeps. Founder of Equal Accessibility, disability advocate, speaker, designer, husband, dad, and I'm known as Look Mom No Hands online. Should we give everybody a minute to follow me, or we can do that after? I wear a lot of hats. Literally, I have over 2,000 hats in my collection. My closet looks like a lid store on steroids, and you don't even want to know how many shoes I have. But seriously, I spent my entire life finding creative ways to figure out things that people said I couldn't do my entire life. I was born without hands, but I've never let that stop me from designing, building, living life, and it especially never stopped me from using apps like Figma better than most people with hands. I mean, seriously, when people see how fast I work, I just tell them I don't have fingers to slow me down. Now, I've been designing for years with a standard Apple keyboard and mouse, and I just use the mouse with my right arm, and I type with my left arm, and kind of like you would use your elbow. And people always ask me, like, how the hell do you do that? I was like, I don't know, I just figured it out. And it's worked for a long time. But see, one part of my disability, I was born without shoulder sockets. So every motion comes with this bonus feature called bone-on-bone grinding. And lately, it's been getting worse. And so I started thinking, when that day comes, when I can't keep using the mouse like this, what am I going to do? How do I keep creating without putting that kind of strain on my body? And that's when I found MouthPad. And now let me show you how I use it. This is the coolest case, watch. It's not going to open now. What the heck, Corten? That's so cool.
There we go.
Boom, hands-free designer mode activated.
Yeah, let me just get
MouthPad is subtle, it's wireless, and surprisingly natural. And the best part, I can use it to navigate software like Figma with just my mouth. So let me show you what that looks like in real time.
Well, I might stop you here. This is something we sort of planned for, which is really, 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 really sad.
It's not connected.
Bluetooth is Bluetooth. And in a really large audience, sometimes that disrupts the signal. I've had this happen before. Worry not, we have planned for this. We did make a backup video that we can at least show what the demo should have looked like. And while we're roaming, feel free to accost us in the wild. We can do some, maybe demo for you out there. But yeah, maybe the gracious team back there. Yes, sweet, they have the video going.
Yeah, this is a file my team and I created at Rocket. Contains some screens from our app, and perfect for showing what MouthPad can do. First up, scrolling.
Yeah, here you can see on the app the yellow activity. We went through it pretty quickly, but here you can go through the next.
Now this is dragging. There's no lag, just smooth moving.
And yeah, you see the yellow activity. His tongue is touching it when holding, and the blue activity is for the pressure when that spikes up.
Right click, everybody, I'm a copy paste fiend, so I'm always right clicking, copying and pasting, and it's just like a suction. I just like a straw suction to open the menu like that.
See that dip in the blue, how it dropped downwards instead of going upwards? That's the pressure manipulation in both directions.
Yeah, and this is zooming. I'm doing this all day too. Everybody zooms in on Figma, so you know what this is like, but this is just the same motion, just scrolling up and down. And this is obviously everyone's favorite Figma feature, auto layout, just clicking and dragging, just using all the things that we just showed you. You gotta auto position that menu because that doesn't look right? And then lock it to the bottom. Boom, that's it.
And yeah, no, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's demo or die is the reality, and I must have died 1,000 lives. This is just how things go. But thank you for your patience. And before we sort of part ways, while we're here, there's just one last question I got to ask you. It is a design conference after all, and just kind of want to ask your opinion briefly why it matters to design products like the MouthPad. Why does it matter? I'll leave it at that.
To me, MouthPad is about independence, because one day I won't be able to use the mouse like I do every day, and there's millions of people this is going to help. And I always say, like, what's good design for people with disabilities is good design for everyone. This is something that anyone in here could use. You guys could be doing stuff with your hands and using your mouse at the same time. This is incredible. It's inclusive design. And Corten, thanks for you and your team for doing this, and you guys are going to change many, many lives.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Love you, man.
And that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for listening to us ramble for a little bit. And yeah, like I said, come find us out in the wild. We'll be happy to talk a little bit more about it. But thank you.
Thank you. Hey, go Rocket!